You are listening to the TV Obsessive podcast, brought to you by TVObsessive.com.
Hello, welcome back to episode 133 of the TV Obsessive podcast. My name is Ryan Kirksey, a writer and contributor for TVObsessive.com, and once again joined by Cameron Crane, the executive editor for the site. I had to make a confession to someone today. I've bought zero Christmas presents. I've done zero shopping. Are you a last minute or early shopper?
Oh, I mean, it would definitely be last minute. I don't. You got plenty of time. What are you talking about?
Oh, we have at this point plenty of time.
Well, I love this. My grandma used to tell me this story. One of those things that she'd repeat over and over again. And the moral of the story is it has to do with how my grandfather was maybe not the best guy in a lot of ways. Anyway, he died when I was a kid, but they had six kids, right? And so my grandma would always make sure that she had like bought everyone presents in a way that felt fair.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then I guess my grandpa would go out shopping on Christmas Eve and just buy random stuff for the kids. And he just like every year you would just mess up the whole plan.
Yeah,
You know?
right.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's a nice story about grandpa.
Both of my sets of my kids grandparents do that. It's they have to make the dollar amount equal, the number of things relatively equal. You can't have any kids upset about who got more or who got the better things.
Yeah. Well, a couple weeks till Christmas.
Yeah.
We're going to continue talking about Pluribus today. The season finale of which is going to air on Christmas, we realize, because it actually comes out Thursday night. So we'll keep you all posted about when to expect that podcast. But this week we're here as per usual on Friday, December 12th. We'll be back next week on the 19th. And then sometime on the weekend after Christmas, probably is what it's looking at. We're going to do our best, guys. But, come on. What else have you been watching this week, Ryan?
Yeah, I don't know really anybody wants to hear my opinions on last night's Thursday night football. That was I have some thoughts on that game. So other than that, I mean, beyond a lot of football I've been checking out, I did finally check out the first half of this show on Netflix, The Beast Within Me. This is with Matthew Rhys and Claire Danes, two people that I really like.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just because I haven't sort of watched a thriller or mystery in a while. Like I said, halfway through it, I'm intrigued enough to finish it. I think since The Americans, I'll watch pretty much anything that Matthew Rhys does. And he's a very good sort of is he or isn't he villain in this show. So far so good. Has a recommendation at least to finish it for those that are thinking about starting it.
Cool. Yeah, I may have to check that out. I do like Matthew Rhys. Given what you said, did you watch Perry Mason?
No, I haven't seen. That's right. We've just talked about Perry Mason. I haven't
Sure.
seen Perry Mason.
It was okay. I mean,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was. I
That's
mean, I
probably
enjoyed
why
it.
I remember your sort of lukewarm recommendation of it.
I enjoyed it. It was kind of weird. It was like the first season felt almost like a prequel to Perry Mason. It was kind of odd in that way, but it was pretty good. I wrote about that first season, and then it's one of the ones where I kind of feel bad because I didn't write on the second season. I didn't even watch the second season when it was
Mm,
airing, and then they canceled it.
yeah.
So it's again one where I feel like, was that my fault? But like obviously not my fault. Obviously not
Yeah.
my fault.
I've developed
Um,
an opinion about this over our time podcasting together because this has happened a lot that you and I just must in many ways be representative of the larger population because if we watch something, develop opinions about it, but decide, not worth checking out the second season, that's probably the way most people are feeling about something, which is why these things get canceled.
yeah, yeah, all right, yeah, exactly, exactly. We've got our finger on the pulse of
That's
the
right.
TV
That's what
viewing
it is.
public, right? Right in line. Uh, yeah, you mentioned football. Your Texans, man. That's
Woo.
impressive. We don't
Let's
we don't need to go on a tangent, but
let's go, the
um,
Texans.
they turned it around. We weren't looking very good for a while there. They just really turned it around. Um, a few things in the news this week. A few things on the horizon, potential announcements, and things like this. I guess maybe let's start with the trailers, things that are coming in the near future here.
Hmm.
The soonest I think was Hijack.
Yes, trailer for Hijack season two, which will be coming out early first half of January. Did check this out. This one was just a day or two ago. again, this is the sort of Idris Elba. I don't know, the best thing you compare it to is modern day version of Speed. The first season he was on an airplane. This, if you look at the trailer this year, it's or this season, he's going to be on a train somewhere throughout Europe. But we talked a little bit about this. I did watch this first season, and not so much that it was um the most intellectual thing in the world, but boy, is it entertaining. And
Yeah.
just I mean, I think it was 6 episodes. They did do it week to week. Just, I mean, kept bringing you back in to just want to watch that next one. Just, I mean, really exciting mystery slash action. And just like with, I guess, Speed and Speed 2, Idris Elba just finds himself in one of these situations again coming up next month.
How does this keep happening to me?
Right.
I don't know if I ever saw Speed 2.
No,
Was that the
I've
one?
not
Was
seen
it
it.
a boat?
It's on a cruise ship, yeah, which is a
Yeah, it was
disastrous mistake.
a
Yeah.
boat. It was like, even at the time, whenever that came out, the early 90s or whatever, it was kind of like, that's pretty cheesy, man. A boat. Um, but yeah, you maybe convinced me to check out Hijack and have some fun. That sounds good. Relax
Yeah.
a little bit here over the holiday period, just, watch some
There's enough sort of
action
mystery
thrillers.
and twist to it that, it's not just pure, think about the first season. You can't just be, people beating each other up on a plane for 6 straight episodes. I mean, there's some compelling story and trying to figure it out, and then some twists along the way. So there's enough interesting story there to get through it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I do like Idris Elba. Does he have a British accent in this?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So I think the
It's it's
story
it's
is
it's always sort of because he is British, right? It's always
yes.
sort of odd to me though because the first time I ever saw him was in The Wire, you
Oh, okay,
know,
yeah.
and where he very much does not as Stringer Bell, and so then you go from The Wire to maybe the next thing I watched with him was I don't know Luther or something maybe you're like oh he's very very
I was gonna
British then.
say the first thing that I saw him in, or maybe the earliest thing I saw him in, was that short stint where he was the boss on The Office. Remember, he came in and Michael Wallace hired him for a while, and he and Jim play soccer, and yeah, very very much just using that same American accent in that show.
I don't know if I saw that bit.
Yeah,
I
this was
did
like
not
season
religiously
six or
watch
something,
The
maybe.
Office all the way
Yeah.
through. I know what you're talking about though. They hit that period where they had like guest stars coming in. And I know I saw some of that with James Spader and so on.
Yeah, so that was
Um,
after Steve Carell left. So this was sort of
yeah,
yeah, they bring in a boss to sort of run some of the businesses that Dunder Mifflin has, and Idris Elba comes in, and nobody likes him, and he's just he's actually like a really good businessman, but which was the opposite of what they wanted, in terms of a boss. So yeah, it was just one of those sort of it kind of kicked off that Idris Elba, Will Ferrell, James Spader, that whole series of late season guest stars they brought in.
yeah, it's funny. You make me realize I think that there are good chunks of The Office I have not seen of the
Okay.
American Office. Um, there was still one where it was like I would just watch it sometimes when it was on,
Yes.
it didn't feel like the kind of show that you had to watch every episode of when
Right.
it was airing, Although I imagine that if you're a lot of people have gone back to it or maybe watched it for the first time on Netflix or something like that and thus do binge it and watch every episode. Um I guess since we're talking about that, let's make a different kind of segue and then go back to where I was thinking we were going to go. We have a new show coming from Michael Shore, um, who was of course involved in Parks and Recreation and The Good Place, and
Yep.
we were talking about The Office and those. There's a connection. Was he involved in The Office? I don't remember.
Yes, Mike Schur
Um,
was, yes, he was
yeah,
on, he was, I think, one of the writers of The Office. Yeah.
yeah. That's right. Yeah, that's real, and some other stuff, right? But the news here is Hugh Laurie signed on to the show with Amy Poehler, being produced for Peacock. It's called Dig. Um, I don't know how much more I need to hear to potentially be willing to check this out. What about you?
Yeah, no, that was interesting. I actually read the description of what this is before I read the line that this was a comedy series. So when you see things like uncovers a long buried secret with the potential to rewrite history and uncovers an international conspiracy, I was like, oh, that's a little bit different for Mike Schur. But then you look at, oh, this is a comedy. Hugh Laurie and Amy Poehler starring in. It's like, okay, yeah, that certainly is that's going to make the list.
Yeah, and I'm curious, if it's got that kind of mystery element or whatever. I mean, the Good Place. I really enjoyed Parks and Recreation. I really enjoyed Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Mm-hmm.
We were just talking about The Office, which, I was always more of the opinion that it was fine.
Yeah,
Um, so The Good Place, though, is one that I would almost, so it's like kick up into another echelon. You know what I mean? Like not just uh really good comedy, but like a really good television program,
absolutely. Incredibly smart show. I was reading one of these things about, I don't care if it was best first seasons or best episodes with a twist or something, but the Good Place is on all of them, right? Because that
Yeah.
first season is so good.
Yeah, so we'll see. I've yet to check out Man on the Inside or whatever it's called with Ted
No, I've not
Danson
seen that
on
either.
Netflix. I mean, it looks pretty good. It just hasn't. I haven't made the time for it. We're very much getting back into there's too much TV kind of feeling,
Oh yeah.
where
Oh yeah.
for a while, for a couple years there, maybe it didn't quite feel like that because of production delays for this and that reason
That's
or
right.
what have you. But now it kind of feels like we're so back.
I
And that
know.
includes the other trailer we want to talk about that was released for Paradise season 2, coming already in February, which is, I mean, season 1 was just this year, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. This is we are so back with this. I mean, to have this show come back for a second season this soon after the first one, man. And watching this trailer and just getting right back into these characters and this story and expanding the world. I mean, you and I, the right word is not hate watch. We certainly did not hate watch this. It was
No, it's not.
incredibly entertaining. You're not going in it with the expectation that you're going to be intellectually stimulated, but man, you just can't turn this show off.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know what the right. It's definitely not hate watch. It's I don't know. Is camp an appropriate term? There's something about the show that maybe is a little campy.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, the fact that you're going to have a needle drop, and then just every time it's like doing the Phil Collins song again. You're like, well, maybe you could do Guns N' Roses. We're doing the Phil Collins song again.
That's right.
Like, but it's not even Phil Collins. It's like some weirdly sappy cover
Yeah.
version of
This,
anyway.
I mean, this trailer just, I was all in before, but I mean, just, yeah, made me want the second season to show up and, seeing characters in the trailer, like, wait a minute, how are you in this season? Those types of things. You're like, I just want to see what they're about to do.
Yeah, I feel like there are almost spoilers in the trailer. So maybe note of
Yes,
caution to people. Like
yes, yes.
we spent an episode of the podcast talking about season 1 of Paradise, I don't guess a couple months ago. And I remember one of the questions that we asked when we were talking about it is like immediately answered in this trailer.
Mm-hmm.
So people listening maybe even haven't seen season 1, so we'll hold off on getting into any of those type of details. If you haven't seen season 1, I guess we do recommend it.
I do I do absolutely recommend it.
It is what it is. You know what I mean? But you got make sure you give it 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Because the
Yes, yes,
first
yes.
time I put it on, I actually turned it off after like 4 minutes,
Yes.
and it
This
kicks
is
into
this is the
gear at
thing.
like minute 5 or 6.
Exactly. Push through, finish that first episode. I can almost guarantee if you finish the first episode, you will finish the season.
Yeah, because some of the dialogue's a bit, I don't know, ham-fisted or something,
Hmm.
or whatever term you might use, but it's a very entertaining show. I'm looking forward to season 2. Um, More surprising to me is the idea that we might get a third season of Pushing Daisies, which was canceled. I didn't even look up how many years ago it was canceled. It must have been 15 years or something like that. Have you ever watched Pushing Daisies, Ryan?
No, I have never seen this before, and I was looking this up actually. And so I'm glad you mentioned this. So this premiered in October 2007 and ran for 2 seasons. And now here we are, I guess 16, 17 years after it finished, talking about bringing it back for a third. But having no real memory of this show, I was just kind of shocked by the names that I saw in this. I don't know why I never watched this.
Yeah, and Lee Pace.
Yeah.
And it was Brian Fuller show. I mean, this is one where this is like if you go on social media and try to do one of those engagement bait posts where you say
Yeah.
like name a show that was canceled too soon, and like someone's
Yes.
going to say Pushing Daisies. It's probably only going to take
Yeah.
you're like um It's a good show, and yeah, but it's been a while. I mean, one thing that was occurring to me was uh, if they do this, I'm definitely going to have to go back and rewatch those first two seasons because, as I
Yeah.
said, I think it's been like 15 years. Um, but really good show, really interesting, kind of quirky premise. There's stuff about death going on,
Okay. Okay.
and
I was
there,
wondering
and
if
the,
that was based on the title, if that was the theme of the show.
yeah, and also pies. There's
Okay.
lots of pies. It was actually kind of cool because when this show was coming out, my girlfriend at the time was inspired by this show to get into making homemade pie from scratch
Okay. Okay.
of like inventive varieties, like because that's what they do
I
on the
see.
show. So and she did a good job. So it was just like all of a sudden I'd just come home to my apartment, my girlfriend would be like, I made this pie. It's apple with Gruyere, and
Oh wow.
like the biggest thing is making the crust from scratch
Yes. Okay.
when it got, and then she was doing that. It's like, man, good.
That's yeah. We have tried that in our house, and that impresses me. If you can conquer that skill.
Yeah, absolutely. But that is the biggest thing to me because sometimes I get the feeling like I'm not a huge fan of pie, but it's
Hmm.
because a lot of pie isn't very good. You know what I mean? Like if you're just getting the store-bought pie crust
Yes.
and the store-bought pie filling that you pour in the crust or whatever, it's
Right.
like
Right.
it's just it's weirdly like too sweet. It's not very good. But if
Yeah.
you make the crust from scratch, that's the biggest thing. And then particularly if you're using like fresh, fruit ingredients or whatever. And now I kind of want some pie anyway. Really exciting if there seems to be a real chance that they're going to bring Pushing Davies back with Brian Fuller. Brian Fuller also is one of those guys who always has his shows canceled.
Oh yeah.
Whereas I'm a fan of Brian Fuller's work, I think, right? And it's also how for quite a long time I felt like I'm the kind of person who tends to like canceled shows, but I guess only of a certain kind. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The
Yeah.
ones that
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
canceled because they were just a little too quirky, a little too offbeat, a little too
Sure.
weird, or whatever.
Yeah.
So Pushing Daisies, Hannibal. Yeah, I guess if Brian Fuller's
Well,
going to get a chance to bring back Pushing Daisies, maybe we shouldn't give up on Hannibal.
well, yeah, and I was going to say if it's just two seasons that exist out there before a third, that this is a great excuse for someone like me to, before a third season starts, go revisit. I suppose it's not a. I have to go back and look. Is this a 24 episode season? Is it that much to push through? But even if it is, not too many to try to make it through to get ready for a third season.
Right. To my recollection, I don't think it's that many. I think maybe it's more like 13, but I'd have to double check. Don't quote me. It's been 15
Yeah,
years.
yeah,
Um, Other news, this is noteworthy that Jimmy Kimmel got a contract extension. I
yeah.
guess particularly in light of some of the stuff happening earlier this year, where they pulled him off the air briefly and then put him back on. I don't know. Further thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think that's really the only reason why I noted this was that with so much controversy surrounding his show and him even thinking once he was off that that was going to be it, that not only has ABC asked for at least one more year of him to sign an extension, but he has agreed to that 1 year extension. I imagine this is a 1 year extension so he can position himself for whatever it is he's going to do next. I don't know if either side had appetite, for another 4 or 5 year extension. Will late night even be around in that period of time? But apparently he's been talking to folks like Conan O'Brien and Stephen Colbert and then things that you can do after you leave a late night show and probably position himself for that a year and a half from now.
Yeah, we'll be curious to see, because it does feel like we've talked about this before, but it does feel like there is a possibility that within the next several years, late night television as we've known it our whole lives might kind of go away.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, or not.
yeah,
I don't know. If you were Jimmy
yeah.
Kimmel, like, why not
I
keep
mean,
doing this?
NBC it seems like they're going to be the holdouts for at least some period of time. Fallon and Myers are both around. There have been nothing in terms of conversation about their shows or what's going to happen to them, but I have no illusions that Kimmel will stick around for more than a year and a half.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Interesting career arc for our friend Jimmy Kimmel. I mean, remember when he was on Ben Stein's Money,
Yes,
and
win Ben Stein's money. I do remember that
and then
show.
then he had the Man Show,
Yeah,
and then this, and he's been doing this Jimmy Kimmel Live for
that's right.
I don't know how long now, hosting the
Long time,
Oscars and
long
stuff.
time. And we didn't even talk about when this happened, I don't think, but the fact that Jon Stewart agreed to stay around as well, I think one more year through the midterms. Will that get extended? Who knows? But there certainly has been an appetite for his brand of the Daily Show back on TV.
Yeah, I think we did talk about it when it wasn't official yet, and then we
Yeah,
kind of skipped over it when it became official, or something like that.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
that is happening if people didn't catch that news. So yeah, we still got some late night comedy out there. And I do think, regardless of what happens, something like that will continue. It's just a matter of,
Yeah,
are you still going to have shows like this that air at night on network television every night, or is it going to move more to the internet podcast sort of space and just
correct.
that,
Yes.
where there is already some of that stuff going on. All right, I think it's time to talk about Pluribus.
Yes, sir.
Up to episode 7 already this week, called The Gap. So spoilers will be on the table here for everything in Pluribus season 1 through episode 7. So hopefully you've seen that. This would be your spoiler warning. We'll put in a little bit of music here and be back with you in just about 10 seconds.
Okay, we're back to talk about Pluribus, episode 7, The Gap, on Apple TV. This episode written by Jen Carroll, directed by Adam Bernstein. Two Better Call Saul alums back for this episode. In episode 7, Carol returns to Albuquerque after her trip to Las Vegas and continues to use the other's desire to please her to get anything she wants, including gas, ice cold Gatorade, and fancy meals out at restaurants. But after more than a month in isolation, she becomes severely depressed. She almost lets herself be killed by a giant firework and cannot find happiness in anything available to her anymore. She eventually paints Come Back on the road in her cul-de-sac, which prompts Zoja to return. Carol breaks down in tears and embraces her. Meanwhile, in South America, Manusos begins the long trip from Paraguay to New Mexico, but refuses any help from the others and leaves money from anyone who takes gas or supplies. When he reaches the Darien Gap, he's warned by the others to not go in, warning that it is too treacherous. They offer to take him to New Mexico. They offer to bring his car, but he burns the car so they can't use it and sets off into the gap. Not long after, he's impaled by some of the chunga palm trees, receiving several wounds on his back. He tries to treat them himself, but eventually becomes too weak, collapses. The others drop in from a helicopter to presumably rescue him to safety. In a
Yeah.
show that already has very, very little dialogue, this episode really had very little dialogue, yet I was intrigued and sort of captivated the entire time. So credit to the two stars as we sort of look at both of their journeys over the course of this about 35 days. I'm curious if you were as captivated as I was by these two people's journey.
I guess I wasn't. So let's start there. As you know, I always like to go negative first if I'm going to
Yeah.
do it at all. Because with this one, I have found myself, of course, thinking about it and mulling it over in since I watched it last
Hmm.
night, and starting to feel like, okay, well, this is one of those episodes of TV that I like better in retrospect. I get what they were doing and so on, but to be honest, as I watched the episode, I didn't feel terribly captivated or entertained
Interesting.
personally.
Okay.
Um, that's not to say it wasn't good,
Right.
but and it's interesting because also almost immediately after watching it, I went to see if the official podcast was up yet,
Hmm.
and it
Hmm.
was. So I listened to it immediately after watching this episode.
Yep.
This was like after midnight because I watched football and then I watched Pluribus and then
Yeah.
so and that was interesting. And one of the things I was curious about was like where they filmed the Darien Gap stuff.
Yep.
it's no surprise that it was not actually in
in the gap.
that location. I was curious about it. Um, and there were a lot of interesting kind of production details. And I don't know, did you listen to the official podcast this week yet? I
I
know you
did.
did.
I listened to it driving today. So yeah, I had about a 12 or 14 hour gap in between watching and listening to it. Yeah.
They were talking about things like Minuso's car and
Hmm.
having to get different iterations of the car for different filming locations. And okay, I'm not saying it wasn't good, but particularly maybe it had something to do with my mood last night I was watching it even. I couldn't help but have this feeling like the show creators just a little bit up their own asses with this one.
Ah, okay,
Does that make
okay.
sense to you?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
come on,
So I
you're
will say, especially when in reference to the podcast. So the podcast, and they say this at the beginning of everyone, is very much not anything to do with recap, theories, where we're going, what's happening in the story. They talk very, very little about that. And so it's very much this is sort of how we made the episode. And I did find that this episode of the podcast, I actually didn't even finish it. I turned it off with 6 or 7 minutes left because there was a whole lot of look at what we were able to do, or look who we were able to look how creative we are, look how good we are, look at all that we were able to do in these interesting locations when we weren't allowed to, and all of these things. So there was a lot of pat us on the back for what we were able to accomplish here.
yeah, but there was I was starting to feel that way a little bit about the episode itself.
Okay.
But this is where, as I said before, it's almost like I appreciate it more in retrospect, if that makes sense, that what they're trying to pull off here, I think, as I think you already said,
Yeah.
is an episode of television that's going to center around two characters in separation from one another
Yeah.
with almost no dialogue, right?
Correct. Correct.
Very little dialogue. You have, for example, I mean, what you have Carol calling the voicemail to request a Gatorade and stuff like
Yep.
that. And that's almost it, or
Hmm.
Manusos has a couple of encounters with some
Yeah,
of the
apparently
others.
Menusos has like 20 words with when he gives his little monologue before he goes into the gap. Carol has some requests on the phone. Otherwise, it's just Menusos practicing English, Carol singing some songs and making some noises, but very, very, very little.
Oh yeah, yeah. She starts singing to herself and so on. That was interesting, and the fact that there's evidence that people will tend to do that,
Hmm.
in extended periods of solitude. But then I don't know. I got wondering about a couple of things. She's singing to herself. Does she not have access to music?
She does because she plays some music while she's hitting golf balls into building windows later in the episode.
Right. But not in the car?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
I mean, maybe sort of if it's like, you wouldn't have satellite radio or whatever. They haven't entirely made that
Yeah,
sort of stuff clear.
yeah,
And so then to kind of entertain herself, it's golf, hitting golf balls into building windows at one point. It
right.
becomes, and fireworks from the gas station. Why didn't the others clear out that gas station when they cleared out the grocery store?
Yeah, I did
Um,
notice it was so it seemed to be clear of food, but anything that was not food, they just left for, I guess that's not of their use right now.
I mean, I guess that makes some sense. There's like, we don't care, you
Yeah.
know. Um, she messes with some lottery tickets, which of course makes no sense at all. I guess I guess that's to the point of what they're trying to do,
Yeah.
right? But earlier in the series, we saw her, sitting around in her house watching the Golden Girls.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I guess there's no television. I guess that's been established, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
in the premiere, when she turned it on, all she could find was the guy on C-SPAN.
Right.
So maybe she just has the Golden Girls on DVD and doesn't have much other physical media or something. That's not fully,
Yeah.
fully established. Um, she's an author. Surely she has a bunch of books she hasn't read. Surely she does. I mean, come on.
Well, you've got a whole world of books available to you. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, whether you have them at home or not, you can go to the library, presumably, you know. So I guess part of my feeling was I'm not sure that what they were doing worked for me the way it was supposed to, right? I mean, I think it's clear that all of this is supposed to be establishing her increasing loneliness and
Hmm.
boredom. Um, I don't know. Any thoughts there? Because to me,
Yeah.
part
So
of
I
it is
think
just like why not? Why aren't you like reading books or something?
I think the thing that worked best for me was that the fact that each character had sort of equal airtime in this episode and showing the, I don't even know if this is the right word, but this is what I put in our notes. It showing the ethic or the sort of purpose that each person has in dealing with these whatever they are, these aliens or these afflicted people, these others, that Carol, while forced to not have any sort of contact with them, is still going to take advantage of them in every way that she possibly can until she just sort of realizes that she's kind of hopeless without interaction. Manuzos, on the other hand, wants absolutely nothing to do with them and is opposed to so opposed to taking advantage of anyone or anything or getting something that he doesn't feel like he deserves or something that does not belong to him, that he's siphoning gas and leaving money for them, on their windshield. So just sort of showing that comparison of how they are dealing with their circumstances of A, being alone, B, apparently searching for the same thing, although they may not realize that yet, and C, knowing that they are very, very isolated, not just or literally isolated away from people, but isolated in their views of how they are going to interact with these people. Sort of showing that comparison, I think, was what was interesting to me. I think it sets up an interesting dynamic between the two of them when they presumably are going to meet the next episode. So it sets up something to where I think Manus is coming to her hoping that he finds a comrade that's just like him, and he's going to find that she does things in a way that he doesn't approve of.
Yeah, but it has already been something of a turn on Carol's part. I mean, certainly by the end of the episode, but I mean even before that, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because earlier in the season, she was refusing food from them and so on,
right.
right? And now in this episode, I feel it makes sense to me because I feel like, well, she's gotten sort of just frustrated and she's isolated. And unfortunately, the only way to get stuff is through these other people, right? Through
Yeah,
these others, you know?
yeah.
Um, I did feel like we've talked about this before. I've been maybe more sympathetic to Carol than a lot of people. You know,
Yeah,
like I see comments on Blue Sky and stuff like this, and boy, man, a lot of people really dislike her as a person.
yeah, yeah.
And I don't really, and whatever that says about me, I feel like I largely get it in terms of how she's reacted and how she's behaved. But I did feel like with the Gatorade and stuff like that, this episode was really trying to push on like, no, you must view her as a,
Yeah.
miserable, unlikable character.
And I have to say, I have not done a lot of digging or looking into whether it's social media or Reddit or whatever for about this episode. I wonder what the reaction is or will be about her response at the end of this when she finally sees Zoja, and I mean, literally in tears breaks down. Is it a sense that even the most, are they trying to convey that even the most miserable people, even the people who think that they will be able to withstand isolation and be able to withstand something where they can push themselves away because they want nothing to do with that other group. Even they reach a breaking point where they have to have some kind of interaction, some sort of sense of belonging or community. Will we ever get to that point with Manusos? The interesting thing is I don't ever. He gives the impression that I don't ever feel like we will.
Yeah, and so I mean, this kind of goes back to the criticism I was putting forward before. For me, I guess I'm not entirely sure they did the work.
Got it. Okay.
I see where they're trying to go and where they're, where they get to at the end of the episode. And that was part of why I wanted to listen to the official podcast too. And they did say some things along these lines where I got the impression they felt like they didn't need to do the work
Mm,
and or didn't need to do more work than they did, and that's choice. And again, I get it. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess that's part of what I would say. They didn't get me there as
yeah.
someone who, um, I imagine would react in a lot of ways that are fairly similar to how Carol has reacted.
Hmm.
Um, like, you aren't really autonomous persons anymore. You're weirdly nice zombies. I mean, I'll give you that you're weirdly nice, but there's the
Yeah.
zombie part. Um, but yeah, like I was saying before, I guess this would be me if I were in her situation. I would be, trying to read books, watching films, watching television, or
Yeah.
whatever. Right? Like I'm presuming she was watching Golden Girls before. Even if that's the only DVD set she owns, other stuff should be out there too for her to go
Yeah.
and find,
You can have anything you
Um,
want in minutes. You're right.
so I feel much more like the guy in the Twilight Zone who's like happy in the library before he breaks his glasses. You know what I mean? Um, so I don't know. I guess that's not Carol.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. And I just, it's interesting to think about for what we've established in 6 episodes that, to me, it seemed like the trajectory was going to be, wow, I can survive this way. I can, I'm not Mr. Diabate, but I can find the things that I've always wanted to do, the things that entertain me, the things that make me happy, and I don't need other people to do them. Do I wish Helen and others were here? Yes, but I can survive and maybe even thrive in sort of sense of how I'm treating myself in this situation. But it takes her about a month to get, I mean, to an absolute breaking
yeah,
point to the point where it seems like she would have been fine if that firework hit her in the face.
yeah, and okay, so this is the thing. I have to take the show on its own terms, and what is the show telling me about Carol, right?
Right.
So even if I personally would be catching up on my reading or whatever, I guess that's not Carol. And thinking about it, maybe something really was established about her character back in the premiere with the book reading and all of that, even though she was expressing some annoyance to her fans or condescending a little bit,
Yeah.
particularly when she's talking afterwards with Helen and so on. Um, that she wants that. She wants the acclaim. She wants the fame,
Yeah.
such as she's gotten it through writing these books. And part of what bothers her about the others is now it becomes meaningless, right? Like
Yes. Yeah.
when she's talking to Jeff Hiller,
Yeah. Larry, is it?
Larry, I think, yeah, I was going to say Larry, I
Yeah.
think we are Larry or whatever.
Yeah.
In a previous episode, and he's telling her how much they love her books. It's meaningless,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
more where she's coming from, so um that she is pushed through this prolonged solitude towards realizing that how much she does, I don't know, care about other people when it comes down to it. um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but then, okay, here's a question. The others at first were around, and then she made them cry.
Mm-hmm.
So they decided they needed some space, and
Right.
right, and they leave her all alone in Albuquerque. Is this coercive? Ultimately, by the end of this
Mm.
episode, she's come around to where she's going to paint on the
Yeah.
road. Come back, and as you mentioned, Zosia comes back. She breaks down in tears because she's
Yeah.
just been so broken down by the solitude that the connection with another person is so
Yeah.
meaningful to her. But they forced that solitude on her. So that's
I,
why I'm
I, I
asking, is it
think
coercive?
I think you're right for that I could read it as that way for two reasons. One would be they realized even by the time that she does that to Zoja with the drugs and making them cry, that there is a point where she is first relying on them for things. She's not isolated herself at that point. She's relying on them for certain things, and she's asking them for things, and they are providing, and they have this sort of relationship where they do that. I think, but also there's a sense of, I think how do I put this? Even in Carol's sort of most bitterness and being brutally bored and turned off by having to do a book reading and interact with all the fans, she still had Helen as a confidant that she could complain to afterwards, and they could go through all this
Mhm.
stuff. And Helen, who would put her book at the top shelf at the airport, all this stuff. And so realizing that while she may seem like someone who would thrive in isolationism, that really they know that she is desperate for that interaction with someone in some way. And so, as you said, pulling back from that and giving her none of it, I do think in a sense is, well, without telling you that we're going to do this, we're going to make you change change your mind and change your actions toward us.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. There's something like kind of passive aggressive about it.
Yeah,
Um, Her arc, you got me thinking about, it's probably clear to everyone, but just to lay it out there, after the joining has occurred, I mean, right? Her first response is, I'm going to go home and get drunk and watch the Golden Girls.
right.
Right. Her then that turns to, I've got to figure out what's going on and do something about it. Right.
Hmm.
It seems like all of humanity has turned into nice zombies. I've got to figure this out and do something about it. And that's what she's trying to do over the middle part of this season, right? Through last week, where then she goes to Vegas, right? And she finds out that Kumba already knows that they're eating people and isn't
Right.
all that upset about it. I mean, it is
Yeah,
troubling. It is troubling. But John Cena explained it pretty well.
yeah.
And then, if you recall,
That's right.
there's also that bit where she says something. They're having breakfast, and she says something like, maybe she'll go get a room, find a room, another part of the hotel or whatever, and we can talk more later. Um, and then she says that she's joking, right? She says she's messing with it. I don't think she was joking, right? I think that
I don't think so. We
he
just stay there and figure it
reacted.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, he reacted in this negative way, at least with his facial expression. So she's like, "Oh, I'm just kidding. I'm being out of here." So now, by the time we get to this episode, even at the beginning of it, she's
Yeah.
already a bit despondent. She's already sort of given up, right? Um, she's not finding a source of hope that she's going to be able to do anything to make the world right again. Manusos
Right.
might ultimately provide that, but he's not around yet, right? And there's something of a time jump ultimately, right? I mean, we go from day 12 to day 48 or something like that.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
see what she's doing with the golf and the fireworks and everything. But I guess it does make sense. But again, for me, it's more like I can appreciate it more looking back on the episode, what they were doing in terms
Hmm.
of her prolonged solitude leading her to break
Yeah.
and at the end of her arc here. Whereas while I was watching it, I was kind of like,
Yeah. That's why I think I just appreciated the comparison of the two, because I think for example, the Georgia O'Keeffe painting that she takes out of the museum and brings to her house to replace the print that they have up, right? Just
yeah,
representative of, you can literally have anything at any time. That's not what she actually wants. She
yeah,
actually, it turns out, after 35 days of having anything that you want, what she is desperately needing is even a hug from a really nice zombie. I mean, that will sort of give her a little bit of what she's seeking.
yeah, needing some human connection.
Yeah.
So I get that. We need to talk about Menusos a little more.
Yeah.
Again, the episode's meaningfully split between their two stories. Um, how did all of this work for you? I mean, a lot of it is him driving. You mentioned how he will go siphon gas and leave some money on the windshield. He's practicing his English. We talked about the Darien Gap last week.
Yeah.
I think ultimately it is clear that he knew he was going to run into that and just planned to hike across it. I think, right?
Yeah, again, that's
Um,
what it seems like, and I did, confirm some things that we talked about last week that he is, that gap begins in Colombia. This is a character that is from Colombia. There is no sense that he would have just been surprised by this, but brought some supplies, brought his machete, ready to get himself somehow across that. What his plan would be after that, I don't exactly know. Leave money in a somebody's garage for their car or whatever. I'm not sure, but it's
walk all the way to New Mexico.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, a pretty clear. This is just digging several layers deeper on, what we thought we knew about Manusos, but just there is literally to show there's literally nothing that can change his mind or change his motivation or his desire to avoid these things at all costs.
Yeah, so it seems. And I want to talk about that a little bit more here in just a moment. First, I want to talk a little bit more about the Darien Gap and how it factors in because I'm really curious to see more reactions from people in the world than I've seen so far. I haven't
Mm,
really seen a lot of reactions to this episode yet, like on the internet,
yeah,
because of course we saw this coming. We talked about it on the podcast last week, but at the same time, you told me last week you didn't know about this until I told you about it
that's
last
correct.
week,
Yep,
right? So one has to imagine that a lot of people watching this episode didn't know about this.
I would think
Do you
that's right.
do you
Yeah.
feel like the episode did a good enough job of sort of explaining what was going on?
I would certainly say no, because I read some things that before we jumped on last week, we talked about this, did some looking at it after we finished. Yes, there are treacherous hikes and dangerous plants and animals out there, but apparently it's just, I mean, there are things like flash flooding, that there are storms throughout there, that there is weather that's just impassable, that there are, I mean, it's not just, oh, they're not marked trails, but you can walk through it. No, they're just simply places that you cannot pass through.
Yeah.
And so while the chunga palm is a pretty dangerous thing I've never seen or heard of before, there could have been a lot scarier things, frankly.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting how the episodes kind of spent a lot of time with him driving
Hmm.
and didn't spend all that much time with him hiking and in peril.
Right. Right.
Um, I don't know. Yeah, I'll be curious to kind of seek out some more reaction. I'm wondering, excuse me. I guess I'm wondering in particular about people watching this episode, not even knowing that this Darien Gap exists.
Yes.
Did it
Yeah.
take
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
out of the episode, right? Like, were people watching this just expecting, well, he's just going to keep driving all the way up
Keep
to New
driving.
Mexico,
Yeah.
and then this happens? Whereas we saw it coming. We knew it was going to happen, right? And we talked about it last week. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter all that much. Maybe it's led to an uptick in people Googling Darien Gap.
I'm sh
Uh,
I am sure if you look at the Google Trends, it would be the largest spike ever by magnitudes. Yes.
yeah. Very treacherous though, and they do. I mean, at least I think that works in terms of the others showing up and really trying to caution him against going through and offering to hey, we'll take you to New Mexico. You want to go see Carol, right? Which that's another
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
where they have no sense of what's the right term? I almost want to say they lack emotional intelligence. I don't know if that's the right term.
Yes, if what you're saying is in part of emotional intelligence is knowing when to withhold and when to move forward and when to, when to disclose and when to not. I mean that was about as bad as sending his mother to him, who's posing as someone who's nice. For them to realize that they know what he's thinking and know what his motivations are, that
Mhm.
was no, he is not having any of that.
Yeah. No, yeah, exactly. Um, they don't understand how these people are going to react or something like that,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
who you're talking to and how, how do you talk to them effectively?
Not
Uh,
only are you not going to move my car, you're not going to be able to use this as a resource because I'm going to burn it to the ground.
yeah, setting it on fire. They did say on the official podcast too, they actually did set that car on fire,
Yeah, yeah.
for whatever that's worth. Um, but so presuming Minusos, we've established he while he was living in Paraguay, he was Colombian, right? So
Correct.
presuming he's fully aware of what's going on with the Darien Gap, how treacherous it is, and so
Hmm.
on. Um, what he is trying to do in terms of hiking across it is pretty stupid and not very rational, right?
Yeah.
Um, like maybe he knows that some people have made it across and so on, right? But still, there's just a real stubbornness to his unwillingness to accept any help when the danger is this great, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And there's no sense that I mean, of the people that made it across, I'm sure they had groups of people to protect one another. They had certainly more substantial supplies. But I don't get a sense that he has any food with him. He's having to pick it up along the way, or he's paying for it, or leaving money, at a gas station or whatever.
Isn't
So
he eating some kind of protein bar or something
yeah,
at
he's
one
doing
point?
something. So I guess he's just, paying for that as he goes, just like he is for gas.
But here's the thing, too. The thing is like 100 kilometers across.
Exactly.
I was trying to do a little math in my head, thinking about that. I should have like done actual math. 100 kilometers is what, like 60 miles, 66
Yeah,
miles?
65-ish miles. Yeah.
So if you think about walking, I don't know, how many miles would you say you could walk in a day? Maybe 10?
Yeah, I was gonna say a normal pace on a standard road be about 3 to 4 miles an hour. And so yeah, you can get through about 10, 12 miles a day, maybe a little more.
Maybe a little more. Yeah. I mean, if you've got good conditions, we don't have good conditions. We've got like the worst possible conditions,
No.
right? So it's like at best, it's going to take him a week to get across this.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Easy.
No chance, man.
No.
Now, maybe another reason why I was somewhat frustrated with my viewing experience is I felt like this ended right when it was about to have its most interesting moment to me.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
And I wonder what you think about this because he slips on the rock, gets stabbed in the back by the chunga palms, which people don't know. I looked into it a little bit. Those are entirely real trees that do look just like that.
Yeah.
They seem so alien when the first
Right.
time I saw it.
Exactly.
Apparently, also like a really useful resource people in the area use for a lot of different things for what it's worth. If you know what you're doing, they're also very dangerous.
Yeah.
Anyway, he slips and gets stabbed, and then he's trying to care for himself by cauterizing his wounds with a hot machete,
Yeah.
and then he keeps going and ultimately collapses, right? And then the helicopter shows up, and we see others ascending, right?
Yeah.
So presumably they're going to airlift him out of there.
Right. Right.
Um, do they need his consent? Will they ask for his consent? Will they get his
Hmm.
consent? Will they take him out even without it? That's my question.
I think I thought you were actually going to go with a different way with that. So I'll answer yours, then I'll sort of pose something else that I think
Okay.
was a missed opportunity. I think that let's put it this way, sort of tie the two together. I'd like to see, did they go down in this helicopter, and was he of the right mind enough to be able to tell them either yes or no, knowing that if he says no, that's it. He's dead. But I think that I'm going to guess that they sort of did this in a moment where he is just too weak or unable to respond to them, communicate with them. They're just fulfilling their no harm and will do whatever it takes to save him. So I'm going to guess that they had no consent, that they are doing this against what he would say is his will, and if assuming he is recovering from this that we see in future episodes, this is going to make him even more angry or hostile towards them.
Yeah, I think so too. And I was thinking about Zoja makes a remark in an earlier episode about saving someone from drowning.
Yep, yep,
Um, and you think about that, people talk about a duty of rescue and so
hmm,
on. So I think it fits, but it's definitely a wrinkle where I mean that's one of the big things I've been thinking about with the show is that their philosophy, I guess, or their
yeah,
ethics, their moral
yeah.
philosophy, as it were, right?
And so
What was the thing that you were going to say?
yeah, so the other thing that I was going to say was, this show has had no problems going back and forth within the timeline of this sort of post-joining era. I really hope that we don't just get Manusos brought to where Carol is, or we see sort of them paving an easy path for him to get to her, that there is some sense of we see this interaction of them landing and trying to take care of him, or we see him in recovery and trying to struggle to get away from it, or get free from them, or doesn't want any help from them. I want to see something of those. I guess it's 35 days that we're missing before presumably Carol and Manusos interact.
Yeah, me too. And I think we'll get that.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know exactly what it will be, and perhaps that's why they leave it where they leave it. But even just for me, a little bit more extending that scene
Mm-hmm.
to make it clear, because I think we're right that they're just going to go down there and grab him to help him and save his life,
Yep.
and that they don't feel like that is something that requires consent.
Yeah.
Um, but I kind of would have liked to actually seen that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
We know from last episode that they believe harm requires consent. Rescue or healing, maybe they don't feel that it requires consent.
Right. I think.
Yeah.
So, but then what exactly are they going to do? They're going to take him to the nearest hospital, you know,
Yeah.
or because I think this gets at what you were talking about, right? You could almost imagine they know that he wants to go to Albuquerque, so they just take him to Albuquerque, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Um,
If he wakes up in a hospital in Albuquerque with a map to say this is Carol's house, yeah, I'll be really disappointed in that.
but maybe, yeah, I'd be a little bit disappointed, at least a little bit disappointed. It's tough because, like, on the other hand, if he wakes up in a hospital in Panama
Mm-hmm.
and is recuperating,
Right. Right. Right.
and they say, hey, you want to ride to New Mexico, and he's like, oh, I hate all of you, I'm going to insist on walking the whole way.
Yeah.
There is another part of this, like, how much they're going to drag this out, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it could start to feel too
Yeah, like
too
we
tight down.
can't drag this out till second season. Would they have to meet this season, obviously? So this have to be wrapped up somewhat soon.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I guess that was also circling back around to where we started, um, in terms of my somewhat negative reaction, was also me feeling like, in a certain way, the story didn't progress all that much in this
Hmm.
episode. If the way in which they were moving Carol towards the breaking point in her solitude had landed better for me, I could see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then maybe the same thing with Manusos. Maybe it just didn't land as well for me as maybe it did for you, maybe it did for other
Yeah.
people, or as they intended it to. So when I think back on it, I'm like, oh, well, it's kind of an interesting episode. It's a risky thing to do,
Hmm.
to make an episode like this that has this sort of structure and so on. I just don't know if it fully worked for me, I guess.
Yeah. Interesting. No, I do think as we're talking here that there are some things that can certainly identify that I think we're missing or that we should have seen or should have had a part of this. Maybe it's just me being swayed by just I think about what kind of heavy lift both Ray Seahorn and Vesca had to play in this episode, and just sort of being maybe overwhelmed or just excited by what I saw, and that sort of for me overshadowed a little bit of what I thought might be missing from plot.
Yeah, okay, fair.
Yeah,
I'm curious. I'm gonna have to look for more reactions on the internet and the like, because part of me does have the feeling, Ryan, that this is gonna be one of those ones where it's like everyone is saying, like, this is the best episode ever,
yeah,
give it all the Emmys, and I'm
yeah,
gonna be ever going like,
yeah,
I don't
yeah, yeah,
know,
yeah,
like that Severance episode, I was kind of like that with. But I mean, it's good,
yeah,
um, it's just, well, it's odd to me how much I'm really enjoying the show, but at the same time, part of me is withholding judgment because I want to see where it goes.
Yes, yes,
And
yes, I get that.
maybe that's going to come down to how the first season ends.
Right.
I'm sure I'll keep watching season 2 regardless, but um I feel like something should happen. Something significant should happen by the time we get to the end of the first season. And we've only got 2
Yeah,
episodes left now.
there are several mysteries they can still solve or give us answers to that doesn't have to reveal everything. We can wrap certain things up, I believe.
Right, because that's the thing. How much we know. Okay, we know that, just kind of tying everything together. We know that it would be possible to reverse the joining. We don't
Yes.
know how, right?
Yes.
We know that it would be possible for Carol and the other 12 to join the hive, but they would have to provide consent
Correct.
for this invasive stem cell procedure. We know that, right?
Yes.
Some of the ones we met are probably going to do that,
Yeah.
right? Um, Maybe eventually even Diabate will get bored and be willing to do that. I don't know.
Yeah.
So we know that it's possible in both directions there, right? We know that the others are consuming corpses
Mm-hmm.
and are going to run out of food in 10 years,
Yep.
right? They said 10 years.
Yep.
I don't think we're going to have like some kind of time jump where that's really coming to a head
No, I wouldn't think so.
anytime soon here. So, yeah, what's the next move, right?
Mm.
In terms of the plot. In Manusos and Carol presumably will meet by the end of season 1.
Yeah.
And I hope before it. Like I hope next week.
I would I would
I hope that's not the end of the season, personally.
yeah, I certainly hope so. I think we know enough about Manusos and Carol to know that they are not, Carol keeps looking for doctors or, you know, bioscientists or others that might have some sort of information or knowledge of what could be done here. These two people don't seem like, I think we might get some answers of what the thing is they could do to perhaps start turning this around, but that there's nothing that these two would actually be able to do. They'd have to then use use the others themselves somehow to make it happen, right? Um, so I'm
Yeah.
curious to see how much of that information is revealed, if anything.
Yeah, right. I mean, thinking back a few weeks, I recall sort of speculating or predicting that Carol would ask for information about this and then try to figure
Hmm.
out the science or whatever.
Yep.
And I was kind of like directionally correct. But what she did instead was, handcuff herself to Zozia and try to force the information out of her.
Right.
Um, so maybe with Manusos, it would be more of the kind of thing that I was imagining earlier, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can we effectively do some research to start figuring out what would need to be done to
Exactly.
reverse
Yeah.
this?
What can we
Um,
do? The two of us, what are we able or capable of doing to get moving down this road? I think that's an interesting question to answer.
yeah. Okay. So hopefully I didn't seem too negative on the episode. I mean, I do still think it's good. I think it's a good show and all of that. It was just it was kind of odd for me to realize as I was watching it last night how I didn't feel like I was as entertained or enjoying it as much as previous episodes personally.
Yeah.
So um curious to see where we go from here. Anything else you want to say about this one before we wrap up?
I think that's it. We have I forget sort of the track record of Apple TV's penultimate episodes, but this is the penultimate episode coming up, so I expect some good things.
Yeah, same. All right. Thanks as always for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed the podcast. If so, please do leave us a good rating, review, all that good stuff. If you're on YouTube, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel, greatly appreciate it. You can find all sorts of written work on TVobscast.com. Encourage you to check out the site, poke around a bit. If you want to follow us on social media, search for TV Obsessive and you should find us. And as for the podcast, we'll be back with you next week.
All right, looking forward to that. See you next time.